Losing $1,000 hurts twice as much as happiness gained from making $1,000. This hidden fear shapes when you hesitate and when you walk away from opportunities, and it costs you years of financial growth. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how fear of loss rewires your behavior, blocks wealth creation, and give you an exact actionable framework to avoid it in your life. This is part of a 4-video series where I tell you the exact wealth traps keeping you stuck where you are. My name is Tazafar, and I spent years being a successful investor with 6-digit plus returns and an entrepreneur with expertise in sales. And after analyzing wealth and successful individuals, there's one trap they all avoid to get to where they are. Behavioral economists call it loss aversion. Let's look at how loss aversion affects you. Your brain does not evaluate gain and losses equally. It exaggerates losses. Why? Because historically, loss could mean death, loss of food, loss of shelter, loss of protection. So evolution created an emotional alarm system. Loss is an emergency. Gain is an optional bonus. We are designed to stay stuck where we are, then risk a little bit loss. That wiring still exists today, even when the loss is just money. Let's apply the wealth creation loop to this wealth trap. Always remember, wealth is created with 3 things: belief, behavior, which leads to outcome. Let's talk about belief. Loss must be avoided at all costs. That's what you think. Even small loss feels unacceptable, and it feels emotionally threatening, which leads to a behavior, Because of that belief, people avoid investing after losing. They sell winners too early. They hold positions too long. They refuse uncertain opportunities, delay decisions, and try to eliminate pain instead of optimizing for outcomes. But my friends, pain is not always bad. Pain is a signal. Use it. This behavior leads to an outcome. The outcome is missed growth, poor timing, emotional decision-making, financial stagnation. And then we blame the markets or bad luck or timing. But the real cause is emotional decision-making. There are so many people that take the risk once, make a bad decision, lose money, and give up forever. Loss aversion doesn't just influence decisions, it changes perceptions, narrows attention. You focus on what could go wrong, worst case outcomes, immediate pain, short-term discomfort, and you ignore long-term growth, probability advantages, strategic positioning, and future opportunities. Fear compresses your time horizon. Wealth requires expanding it. And here's the dangerous part. Avoiding loss feels like success. If you don't lose money, your brain rewards you, even if you also didn't gain anything. So people train themselves to celebrate non-loss instead of pursuing growth. This is psychological conditioning, and it compounds over time. Let's make this real. An investor buys an asset, price increases, they feel good, but they're nervous. What if it drops? So they sell early. They secure a small gain and feel relieved. But years later, that asset multiplied in value. They didn't protect wealth, they prevented it. Now let's look at another scenario. An investment drops in value. Pain hits immediately. They start thinking, I'll sell when it recovers. They hold, loss grows, and they keep on holding longer. Because realizing loss feels worse than continuing risk. Eventually, the damage becomes permanent. They didn't protect themselves. They froze. Same fear, two opposite behavior, same destructive results. If you were making decisions on specific rules and you kept to them, you wouldn't be making emotional decisions. You wouldn't care if the market is going down or up. Now, trying to avoid loss does something even more dangerous. It stops acting entirely. People don't invest, don't start businesses, don't pursue opportunities because avoiding potential loss feels safer than pursuing potential gain. But no action is still a decision, and in dynamic system like markets, standing still is falling behind. My friends, the greatest cause of fear is not losing money, it's losing exposure to growth. Every avoided opportunity removes future possibility, and wealth is built from cumulative exposure. Fear reduces exposure. Less exposure equals less compounding, and less compounding equals limited wealth. The math is unforgiving. So now let's talk about the actionable framework. How do you stop fear from controlling financial decisions? You don't eliminate fear, you neutralize its authority. This is the framework I use. Step 1. Accept emotional discomfort. Fear is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that uncertainty exists. Treat emotions as information, not commands. Step 2. Predefine acceptable losses. Before any decision, define maximum downside you can tolerate. Once defined, loss is no longer unknown. Unknown losses trigger panic. Defined losses creates control. And step 3. Think in probabilities, not outcomes. Individual outcomes are random. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Repeated strategic exposure creates advantage. Professionals think in distributions, not single events. Step number 4, separate decision quality from outcomes. A good decision can produce a bad result. A bad decision can produce a good result. Judge long-term processes, not short-term outcomes. This breaks emotional reinforcement loops. When you understand loss aversion deeply, your relationship with fear changes. You stop seeing loss as failure and you start seeing loss as cost of participation. You stop asking, how do I avoid losing? You start asking, how do I maximize my long-term gains, even if short-term loss happens? That shift alone changes financial trajectories. But even when people overcome safety and even when they understand fear, there's one final force that controls everything. Something deeper than behavior, deeper than emotions, your identity. In the final episode of this series, you'll see why your self-image determines your income and why you can never outperform the person you believe you are. New videos every Wednesdays and Sundays.